Hello there.
General Kenobi!
We are back in Kerbal Space Program, and this time with an entirely new set of mods that absolutely did not crash the game several times when I tried to load it. In this configuration, I have Galaxies Unbound, which adds a bunch of other solar systems to the game, the Outer Planets mod, several of the Near Future parts packs, the KSP Warp Drive mod, Kerbalism, which adds life support and overhauls the science system, Far Future Technologies, and a ton of others, which I will list here. In the game so far, I've completed only as far as a crewed orbit and an unmanned landing on Minmus, so it's roughly where the first series left off. Now, you might be wondering how our goals may have changed compared to the original videos, but there were never actually any stated goals for the first New Zealand space program on Earth using that set of mods, so this time around, I can say with certainty what the purpose of this series is. We will put a Kiwi on the surface of every possible planet, including those around Proximus Kirbani, Nova Kirbani, Serturi, PSD 70, Kirbani A, and Berigis. We choose to do these things not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.
This endeavor will surely cost many lives, but our profits will undoubtedly be vast. So without further delay, let us begin the subjugation of the galaxy. Alright, well, we're back at the KSC, and I'm going to head right into the mission control to accept 3 different Mun exploration contracts, because that is going to be the focus of today's episode. And then we go to the launch pad right after this, so I don't want to have you guys hanging around other places randomly. And this is the Marama 5 mission, I believe, which is going to just do an unmanned landing on the surface of the Mun. Shouldn't be too difficult. You see, I have a very, very small upper stage. This rocket did backflip in the middle, but I was able to salvage it. That happens sometimes in Kerbal. So I'm just going for a smooth orbit, decouple everything, coast up until the apoapsis, and then fire, which is what I tend to do, especially in early missions. But I don't want to just narrate everything. I do want to explain a little bit about how I plan to use MechJeb in this series with these set of mods. So I figured out that probably what seems most fair and not as tedious for me, while still, respecting the difficulties of different parts of the game, is I will have to complete any given operation 3 times before I can use the automated MechJeb AI to complete it. So, for example, if I have gotten into orbit 3 times before, done an ascent 3 times, then I can use MechJeb for all ascents after that. If I want to dock something, I have to do that 3 times manually before I will use MechJeb to do it, etc., etc. Which I think is a fair system, all things considered. So you just see me here fine-tuning that maneuver node to the Mun, and I believe it'll start time warping here soon. And this brings us into the influence of the Mun. You can see me time warping to approach here. Double checking, getting screenshots, because I always need those. And again, zooming in. I have the parallax mod on here, of course, so the textures on the surface are going to look pretty good. Unfortunately, as of recording this voiceover, I have decided not to use the Parallax 2.0 scatters because of Galaxies Unbound already pushes my computer up to its limit, so unfortunately I don't think it's feasible to install that because that is very large. Parallax 2.0 is a very large mod, but at least we have the surface textures from Parallax 2.0. And you can see I'm beginning my final descent onto the Munar surface. This stage, I think that backflip at orbit meant that I couldn't quite bring this back, even though you might notice there is a heat shield on it, but I wasn't quite competent enough, unfortunately. But we landed on the surface of the Mun. And we're gathering all that sweet science using our Kerbalism mod, of course, so all the experiments aren't going to be completed instantly, but getting other screenshots here. That is Marama 5, successfully landed on the moon. Back in the research building, Marama 5 landed us about 90 science, I think. So I'm looking through a bunch of these. There's a lot of options. We can get 1 or 2, I think. But I do decide to go with miniaturization for the better communications, actually the smaller science units specifically in that, and then heavy rocketry, of course, because we need bigger engines. Always need bigger engines. And then right here, just as I'm clearing the VAB, I think I am going to start building the manned lunar spacecraft, which I have decided to name the Ithil program, coming from, I think, if I remember correctly, because I'm recording this like a week and a half after I recorded the video, I think it comes from Middle Earth. That's the name for the moon there, in Elvish at least. But I am putting the colors of the Great Republic of New Zealand, of course. And the mission text title, I'm trying to get the colors exactly right here, because I can't have any conflicting palettes, of course. Check your staging, making sure that's all fine before I bring it out to the launch pad and get it ready for flight. If there was light here, but you could have seen it in the earlier shots. But this rocket has a cryogenic upper stage, which is the first time I'm trying this with the mods that I have. But without further ado, let's launch Ithil 1 to the moon. Unfortunately, as the dual core stage engines attempt to fire to circularize the orbit, one of them misfires, which sends the rocket into an uncontrolled spin. But thankfully, Valentina is an experienced pilot, so she orients the craft, and Mission Control decides to abort the mission, and we're going to bring her back home, hopefully safely. After some recuperating and upgrading the core stage engines so they have more ignitions, more reliability, we're going to send Valentina back out on the Ithil 2 rocket and hopefully make her the first human being on the moon. Through no small feat of the engineers and scientists in the New Zealand space program, we have placed Valentina Juliana on the surface of the Mun, and we have gathered a bounty, a veritable treasure trove of science that we will use to research extra electricity technology, high-powered electrics, more advanced systems, and more things to advance the exploration of the galaxy for the name of the Great Republic of New Zealand.